There's this moment that happens to most people, usually somewhere in their 20s or 30s, though it can come earlier or later, where you're going through the motions of your day and you suddenly stop and think, wait, is this what I actually want? You're at the job you studied for, maybe the job your parents were proud you got, or you're in the relationship that looks good on paper, or you're living in the place that makes sense, checking off all the boxes that society says equals a successful life, and yet there's this weird emptiness, this nagging feeling that you're playing a role in someone else's movie instead of directing your own. That feeling, uncomfortable as it is, might be the most important signal your inner self ever sends you, because it's asking the question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding: are you actually living your life, or are you living the life that was expected of you? Let's start with how this happens, because nobody wakes up one day and consciously decides to abandon their dreams and live for other people's approval. It's way more subtle than that. It starts when you're a kid and you learn that certain things make the adults around you happy. You get good grades, they smile and praise you. You pick the right activities, they brag about you to their friends. You show interest in the careers they respect, suddenly you're the golden child. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make your parents proud, that's actually beautiful and natural, but somewhere along the way many of us stop distinguishing between making them proud by being authentically ourselves and making them proud by becoming what they want us to be. We internalize their dreams, their fears, their definitions of success and safety, and we start believing those things are our own desires when really they're just downloaded programming. Then you get to school and the programming intensifies. The system isn't designed to help you discover who you are, it's designed to sort you into categories and prepare you for economic productivity. You're funneled towards certain paths based on your test scores, and those paths are presented as the only legitimate options. If you're smart, you should be a doctor or lawyer or engineer. If you're creative, well, that's nice as a hobby, but you need a real career. If you want to travel or start a business or do something unconventional, people look at you with concern and ask what your backup plan is, as if living the life you actually want is inherently risky and irresponsible. And most of us, we're young and we don't know any better, so we believe them. We think the responsible thing, the mature thing, is to put aside our wild dreams and do what's expected. So you go to college for the major that makes sense, not the one that makes you come alive. You take the job that pays well or impresses people, not the one that aligns with your values. You date the person who fits the profile of what a good partner should be, not the person who actually sees you and challenges you and makes you feel real. You move to the city where the opportunities are, not the place where your soul feels at home. And each of these choices individually seems reasonable, defensible even, but cumulatively they're building a life that belongs to someone else's blueprint. You're constructing a beautiful prison cell, and the bars are made of other people's expectations. Here's what's insidious about it though. Living up to expectations actually feels good for a while. Every time you do the thing people expect, you get positive reinforcement. Your parents are relieved and proud. Your friends are impressed. Society nods approvingly. You get status markers, the degree, the title, the salary, the relationship status, the house, all the things that signal you're winning at life. And those external validations create a kind of high that can sustain you for years. You might even convince yourself you're happy because look at everything you've achieved, look at how well you're doing compared to other people. But external validation is like junk food. It gives you a quick hit but it doesn't actually nourish you, and eventually you start to feel the malnutrition in your soul. The crisis usually comes when you realize that you've been so busy meeting expectations that you never stop to ask what you actually want. You don't even know anymore. You've spent so much energy becoming who you thought you should be that you lost touch with who you are. And that's terrifying because it means you have to do the hardest work any human being can do, which is to get quiet enough to hear your own voice underneath all the noise of everyone else's opinions and judgments and advice. You have to learn to distinguish between the fear of disappointing others and your own authentic reluctance. You have to figure out which parts of your current life you chose because you genuinely wanted them and which parts you chose because they seemed like what you were supposed to want. Let me tell you what makes this even harder. The people who love you, they often have the most invested in you staying exactly as you are. Not because they're malicious but because your choices make them feel safe. When you follow the expected path, it confirms their own choices. When you color inside the lines, it means they don't have to question whether they should have colored outside them. So when you start to change, when you start to question and want different things, the people closest to you often panic. They'll tell you you're being selfish or irresponsible or going through a phase. They'll remind you of all the time and money you've invested in your current path. They'll weaponize their disappointment, not because they don't love you but precisely because they do, and they're afraid of what your transformation might mean for them. And then there's the practical reality that living your own life is genuinely harder than living the expected one. The expected path comes with a roadmap. There are established routes, known outcomes, people who've gone before you who can tell you exactly what to do. Living authentically means venturing into unknown territory. It means making choices that might not work out. It means possibly earning less money or having less security or facing more uncertainty. It means being willing to fail in ways that are visible and judged. That takes courage that most people simply don't want to muster, and I get it, I really do, because safety is a fundamental human need and going against the grain is legitimately scary. But here's what I want you to understand about the cost of living someone else's life. It's not sustainable. You can white-knuckle your way through it for a while, maybe even for decades, but eventually something breaks. Sometimes it's your mental health, you develop anxiety or depression because you're chronically out of alignment with yourself. Sometimes it's your physical health, your body literally rebels against the life you're forcing it to live. Sometimes it's your relationships, you become resentful and difficult because you're sacrificing yourself and some part of you hates everyone who benefits from that sacrifice. Sometimes it's a full-blown crisis, the affair, the breakdown, the moment where you blow up your entire life because you can't take one more day of the pretense. And when that happens, the destruction is often way worse than if you'd just been honest with yourself and others from the beginning. There's also this quieter cost that's harder to measure but maybe more tragic. It's the slow death of your aliveness. When you're living someone else's life, you're always performing, always monitoring yourself to make sure you're hitting the right notes. You can't fully relax into yourself because yourself isn't what's required. You start to feel like a stranger in your own life, going through motions that look right from the outside but feel hollow from the inside. Your personality flattens out. Your passion dims. You stop having strong opinions about things because you've trained yourself to defer to what's appropriate or expected. You become a very nice, very acceptable, very successful ghost, and the tragedy is that most people won't even notice because the performance is so good. So what does it mean to actually live your own life? It doesn't mean being selfish or irresponsible or ignoring everyone else's needs. It doesn't mean blowing everything up on a whim or refusing all guidance or pretending you exist in a vacuum. Living your own life means making conscious choices based on your own values, desires, and sense of purpose rather than defaulting to what you think you should do. It means being willing to disappoint people sometimes, not because you don't care about them but because you've decided that disappointing them is less tragic than betraying yourself. It means getting really honest about what actually matters to you, not what should matter, not what matters to people you admire, but what genuinely lights you up and makes you feel like your life has meaning. And I think this is important, living your own life doesn't mean every choice has to be dramatic or unconventional. Maybe your authentic life actually does include a traditional career or a conventional relationship or living in the suburbs. The question isn't whether your life looks different from the expected path, the question is whether you're choosing it consciously. Are you in medical school because you genuinely love medicine and feel called to heal people, or because your parents are doctors and it's the family business? Are you married because this person is your genuine partner in building a life you both want, or because you hit the age where you were supposed to be married and they were the right fit on paper? Are you living where you live because it feels like home, or because it's where people with your education level and career trajectory are supposed to live? The audit is painful. It requires you to get really quiet and really honest with yourself. It requires you to separate your voice from all the voices you've internalized. It requires you to be willing to see where you've been complicit in building a life that doesn't fit you. And then, if you find that you've been living for expectations, it requires the immense courage to start making different choices. Sometimes those choices are big, leaving the career, ending the relationship, moving across the country. Sometimes they're smaller, setting a boundary, pursuing a hobby you'd always dismissed as impractical, speaking up about something you've been pretending not to care about. Either way, each choice that honors your authentic self is a small revolution. And here's what nobody tells you about that revolution. It's lonely at first. When you step off the expected path, you lose some people. Some of them will be angry at you for changing. Some of them just won't understand. Some of them were only in your life because of shared expectations, and once those disappear, there's nothing left to bond you. That loss is real and it hurts. But what you gain is even more real. You gain yourself back. You gain the possibility of real intimacy because you're no longer performing, you're just being. You gain energy because you're not exhausting yourself maintaining a persona. You gain clarity because you know what you want and what you don't. You gain relationships with people who actually like you, not the version of you that you thought you needed to be. The truth is, most people will never do this. They'll feel the discomfort of living someone else's life and they'll medicate it with work or shopping or scrolling or drinking or just staying so busy they never have to sit with it. They'll tell themselves that this is just what being an adult means, that everyone feels this way, that wanting more is greedy or immature. They'll look at people who are living authentically and they'll find reasons to judge them, call them selfish or lucky or irresponsible, anything to avoid confronting the fact that those people made a choice they're too afraid to make. And then they'll get to the end of their lives and they'll have regrets, not about the things they did wrong but about the life they never lived, the person they never let themselves become. But you don't have to be one of those people. Right now, in this moment, you can start asking yourself the hard questions. What do I actually want? What would I do if I wasn't afraid of disappointing anyone? What parts of my life did I choose and what parts just happened to me? What would my life look like if I designed it around my own values instead of other people's expectations? The answers might scare you. They might require changes you're not ready to make. But asking the questions, being willing to see the truth even if you're not ready to act on it yet, that's the beginning of liberation. That's how you start living your life instead of the life expected of you, one honest moment at a time.